What's up, everyone? This is Mr. Brown, and today it's all about those details. Right, welcome back to class, and today is actually Unit 1 and Lesson 1. So we're going to get started in our first official lesson. And today we're going to be talking all about details. And you might not think about details, but they are a super important thing of everything that we're going to be doing in this class. So by definition, a detail is an individual feature, fact, or item. But the truth is that details are the little bitty small things that all work together to make something bigger. The complex is made up of the simple, the big is made up of the small. So this is kind of a concept that we need to begin to really wrap our heads around. That the details actually make up the beauty of the bigger product. Huge movies made up by very small details, little ideas, little things, little acting methods, little technical tricks. The master's artwork, paintings from the Renaissance, those are made up of individual brushstrokes. So all these little bitty details go together to make these huge ideas come into fruition, to become these beautiful works of art and communication that are a huge part of our culture. I want to talk to you really quickly, an example of how this kind of works, and this idea of going from the small to the very big is fractals. Have any of you ever heard of fractals? It's a pretty interesting concept. Fractals are a concept where very small elements repeated over and over make up very large, complex elements. The discovery of fractal geometry actually made it possible to have computer animation in movies. And the very first computer animation used in a movie was on the Wrath of Khan Star Trek back in 1982, after the discovery of fractals had been used to generate artificial mountains for Boeing's advertising department. Fractals are a huge part of everything that we use in technology today, from your cell phones to your computer video games. They're all based on fractal technology. We're using something very small and simple and repeating it over and over eventually builds to something beautiful and complex. Here's what we're going to be talking about. We have a tendency to forget about the details. A lot of times it's just natural for humans to look and see the big picture without ever thinking about the little things that made up the big picture. We've all seen pictures of the Eiffel Tower. The Eiffel Tower is full of rivets and bolts that hold that structure together. It looks like one giant piece, but it's actually made up of many thousands and thousands and thousands of little bitty tiny pieces. When I leave here today, I'm going to go get in my car. And if I look at it, I can tell that it's, a car. But if I really study it, it's made up of little bitty pieces, everything down from lug nuts to little bitty plastic pieces to screws. It's one big machine made out of many small parts. Forgetting about the details means you're forgetting about the project. And that's just a fact that we have to really begin to wrap our minds around. Charles Eames, who is a famous designer and revolutionary thinker, really changed a lot of things in the 20th century and set us on the course we are today as far as design is concerned. Charles Eames said that the details are not the details, that they make the design. When we get into things like graphic design and filmmaking and even photography, the details matter. If we don't pay attention to details, you end up with problems. Let me give you an example. My desk, I actually clean it off to film these. But if I'm not paying attention to details, I'll forget something like this McDonald's cup. Does this McDonald's cup need to be? Absolutely not. But when you don't pay attention to the details, you end up with weird things in your shots that don't need to be there. There's actually a trash can that's right over here, but as I was setting up for the shot, I needed to pay attention to the details, so I'll look in the background, and in the background, what did I see? A trash can. I'm not gonna lie, I filmed this once with the trash can in the background because I was not paying attention to details. Details, and by the way, it's time to move the McDonald's cup. That was just as an example. The details are the foundational units of creation, and that's what we need to think about. Details are the foundational units of everything we will create. We have to get the details right so that we can be good designers, good communicators, and good creators. It doesn't even matter what you're creating. It could be a menu for the restaurant you work at. It could be a huge new website for a big client. It could be a newborn photography session. You're taking pictures of a newborn baby. It could be a massive budget, big scale cinema project. It could be who knows what. But if you don't get those details right, you're going to miss out on everything. I put in here in my notes something to say, nothing that is done well is done without major attention to detail. So like what kind of details are we thinking about when it comes to details on a movie? You have to have a script. We know that. You have to have actors. We know that. You have to have electricians, makeup artists, people to sew clothes together, people to do wigs and to do hair. You have to have, believe it or not, somebody that makes and is in charge of food for the movie set. You have to have somebody that is in charge of transporting equipment from one location to another. You even have to have somebody that's in charge of making sure that the checks get written to pay the people that need to be paid. You've got everything from legal to accounting to food services to transportation to construction to wardrobe to makeup to hair, acting, lighting, cameras, lenses, so many details that have to be thought about. And it takes hundreds of people working together. See, this is another illusion that we have, that great masters achieve everything by themselves. But the truth is that sometimes the details are overwhelming, and to make our project come to life, we have to rely on other people, if not just to check our details, but to also help with those details. When it comes to details, we need to be paying attention to, and I just listed some of these things that are actually going to be relevant to our class. You need to pay attention to the design and the details that make up design. Right colors, right arrangement. We're actually going to spend a whole lot of time talking about design and the different principles of design. When it comes to pre-production, this kind of is involved in anything that you're doing. Planning and organizing, crucial. I cannot tell you how many students that I've worked with who had a great idea for a video project, and I mean even some very brilliant ideas for a video project, who didn't pay attention to the details, and when it came time to shoot, things didn't work out the right way. When it came time to edit, things were really off course, and when it came time to release their project, it just didn't measure up. It was awful, to be honest. It was really awful. Several students have fallen into the same trap. And so I say this a lot, and I've said it a lot over my teaching career. Pay attention to the details, planning and organizing. You need to establish a vision. You need to be able to communicate that vision and the details that make it up. If you just say, I'm going to design a new shoe. Okay, cool. What's it going to look like? I don't know. Well, what color is it going to be? Or is it going to be a high top, low top? What are you thinking about? I'm just going to design a new shoe. A new shoe is a new shoe, but without those details, we have no idea what kind of shoe you're thinking about or talking about. And I don't know if I want to buy your shoe because you may design something stupid looking. So think and pay attention to those details. Going back to pre-production, you need to establish a vision. You need to understand the roles and responsibilities of people that are working with you. Those are details that often get mixed up and confused, and sometimes people don't do jobs because they don't know they were supposed to do jobs. When it comes to the production and technical aspects, you need to make sure your camera settings are right. You need to make sure the lighting is right. You need to make sure you've got safety considered, and technique and style have all been thought about. When it comes to production and delivery, you've got to make sure you're using the right format and you're aiming it towards the right audience. In the past, when I've had students work on projects, they forget who their audience is. Sometimes they make a product that will, and by product I mean like a graphic or a video that will work great on Facebook because it's 16:9 aspect ratio, but they actually want to put it on Instagram, when on Instagram a square 1:1 ratio would actually be the best way to format the project. So knowing where you're going to be sending your project, knowing what it's destined for, is it going to be on a computer screen? Is it going to be on a phone? Is it going to be printed out? Those details even have to be thought about. And you're thinking to yourself, maybe, I can figure out where it's going to be printed or on a screen later. But the truth is when you go into Photoshop to maybe set up your graphic design, you have to know up front if it needs to be RGB or CMYK, so that you format the project correctly. And when you get way deep into a project, it becomes more problematic to convert it back and forth. So that makes a huge difference. All these details have to be thought of. The most important thing that we're going to run into a lot in this class is spelling and grammar. You've got to make sure your spelling and grammar are correct. And I know as high school students, that's something that we all struggle with, especially since most of you rely really heavily on autocorrect. But spelling and grammar have to be correct. And the programs that we use, like After Effects, Premiere Pro, Illustrator, and Photoshop, don't have spell correction. So you have to make sure that your spelling and grammar is correct. There's nothing as embarrassing as screwing something up that's going to be published. My first year as a yearbook advisor, I actually did not proofread a lot of what I had as well as I should have. And I ended up with a page that was talking about the Tigerettes, and it called them the Sweathearts because a student had misspelled sweetheart. And so the yearbook says the Sweathearts of Terrell. Oh, I can't believe I did that. I was really embarrassed, and it was embarrassing for my yearbook program. So make sure you're checking your spelling, make sure you're checking your grammar. Those things are so very important. In this class, guys, I'm going to ask you about details 1,000 times. In the course of learning graphics, learning video, learning photography, when you tell me your idea and what you're going to do to start, I'm going to be asking you about the details at the end. Because when we start a project, we have to think about the details all the way through. The big picture is great, but you can't complete the big picture if you're thinking about a painting. It takes every little brush stroke to get us through to completed painting. You may know exactly what the image is supposed to look like in your head, but it takes every little brush stroke to complete that painting. You've got to work on it day in and day out, and you've got to make sure all the details fall in place. I'm going to ask you about the details 1,000 times, so be ready for that. Details matter in every skill that you're developing. That I cannot talk about that enough. Details matter about every skill you're developing. When I learned to play the piano, I ignored learning the correct, we call it fingering for chords and scales. So I ignored that. And as I got better and better and better at playing the piano, I reached a point where I was struggling to play more complex pieces because I did not learn the correct fingering for the scales, and it really became a hindrance. And what I ended up having to do was to stop, go back to the beginning, and relearn how to do things the right way. I skipped one detail, and it caused me a huge amount of delay and struggle. When it comes to details, employment even is something where we have to talk about details, paying attention versus distraction. If you can get the details right, you're going to get the job. So learning to pay attention to details won't only help you in this class, it's going to help you in life. If you can pay attention to details and you can avoid being distracted, like being on your phone or making sure things are getting done the right way, the people are going to want to hire you if you're not on your phone and making sure things are getting done the right way. If you get the details right, you get the job, and that's the truth. We're going to learn in this class to look and to be critical of our own work and to value feedback. So what I'm talking about is we're going to be making a very kind of hard cultural shift. I know that people, it's hard to get critique and it's hard to get feedback when we pour our hearts into something we love. And to be honest, sometimes when we're starting out, it just looks kind of terrible. And we want it to be the best it can be. So if you want your creation to grow and to be the best, sometimes that feedback from others, including your teacher, can be really beneficial to help you get your creation to where you want it to be. You guys may all have a great vision. And why we're in this class and why you're doing this in Terrell High School is in the hope that you will learn how to refine your work and make it better. We're here to help you become better at your creative process. And that's why we're going to talk about details a whole lot. I put down as a note for something to say, refinement is key to success. And refinement is all about adjusting those details. So adjusting details is something we're going to do a lot, and we are going to do a lot to develop a culture of collaboration and refinement. This first unit, Unit 1, is going to be all about details for the rest of this couple days, and you're going to be working on assignments that push you to concentrate and observe and be critical. These are our first steps in developing our professional classroom culture, and that's what we're going to work on starting today and ending sometime in May when we get done with school, is developing a professional culture in our classroom. So, you guys have a couple of assignments, and we're going to be getting to work on that. If you just noticed, my light went out, so it kind of got dark, which is weird, but that's okay. I'm just going to finish the video up and we're going to keep going. You guys have a couple assignments to work on. The instructions are on your Google Sites, and you can turn your assignments in on Google Classroom. The links are provided, and make sure that you are paying close attention to those details. It's going to mean a whole lot on this assignment and the assignments to come, and building that foundation is going to make a huge difference in the assignments that come after this as we build on our skills. All right, that's it for today. See you guys next time.